Hi guys, Allison here, the Bored Housewife. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Bored Housewife. If you're enjoying these episodes, please like, please subscribe, please comment, and please follow me on my other social media accounts. This week I am still feeling nutso and crazy, but I'm getting used to it. It's much more calmer feeling. Not so much anxiety, but there's just still a lot to do. If this is your first episode that you're watching, I am moving to Japan with my husband. He is in the Marine Corps. And we are going on a month-long trip before then. So there's just been a lot of planning and packing and organizing and all the fun stuff that comes along with that. So with that being said, I've been doing a lot of reflecting over the last few weeks, and just on the time here, the last 3 years, and this duty, my husband, he's been on recruiting duty, and for those of you who aren't familiar with the military world or different sort of jobs within the military, recruiting is very difficult. It's very demanding. They expect a lot from the recruiter. It's something that you usually get picked for and kind of randomly picked. You kind of fit into a box and your number comes up, then you don't really get a choice about doing it. And so it looks great if you finish it and you've done, well, but it can really hurt your career and reflect poorly on you if you don't do well. So it's a highly stressful position, very long hours without any other pay compensation really, and so it's just been a really interesting 3 years. Luckily my husband and I are coming out of this and we are feeling really good about it and with each other, but a lot of people aren't so lucky. And so recently I've just kind of been thinking, because of the sort of mindset that we've been in for the last 3 years, and just our life is now going to drastically change again. Where is that leading me? How is this fitting into the person that I want to be? And so, of course, I've gone to the Art of Living and have looked at, what can philosophy do to kind of help me achieve this next season in my life, and achieve finding the person it is that I want to be. And like everything, this is a journey. It's not something to necessarily figure out overnight. But yeah, so let's get into all of that. I have my bourbon iced coffee here. I thought the four roses looked really cool in the background, so that's why I left it there. But cheers, guys. Let's have some fun. Alright, so the cocktail of the hour. In case you missed the tutorial on Friday, I post that on my Instagram and my Facebook. This is my version of an Irish coffee. I'm calling it bourbon iced coffee. So original. But basically, I just used iced coffee. So I brew my own coffee, in a regular coffee pot. I really like to get hazelnut flavor, vanilla flavor, just to kind of give it a little something extra. Because I usually drink my hot coffee black. And then I add in, but with my iced coffee, it's it's just not as fun. I don't know. It's it gets watered down from the ice and it kind of loses its flavor. So I like to add in either coconut or vanilla almond milk, unsweetened. And then for this day, I added a shot of Four Roses bourbon. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple and delicious. Mm. Um, a traditional Irish coffee, I actually forgot this in the tutorial, is coffee, brown sugar, and then like an Irish whiskey. And then you can either make or buy your own whipped cream. You can make whipped cream out of Bailey's, I believe, and you just kind of layer that on top, and then you sip your coffee through it. People have all different kinds of ideas. I think in general, an Irish coffee is one of those where it's like, there's booze in my coffee. This isn't just coffee. But yeah, so that's it, guys. Let's get to it. Okay, so to get us started on today, I'm going to read the passage from The Art of Living, because I think this is a great launching point into the rest of my ideas and things that I have to say. And so, yes, here we go. So the title says, Clearly Define the Person You Want to Be. Who exactly do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to be? What are your personal ideals? Whom do you admire? What are their special traits that would make your own, that you would make your own? It's time to stop being vague. If you wish to be an extraordinary person, if you wish to be wise, then you should explicitly identify the kind of person you aspire to become. If you have a daybook, write down who you're trying to be, so that you can refer to this self-definition. Precisely describe the demeanor you want to adopt so that you may preserve it when you are by yourself or with other people. So I think this is really neat, especially at the very end. Describe the demeanor you want to adopt so that you may preserve it when you are by yourself or with other people. I think that is so interesting because sometimes I think some of it, and I think we all do this, we're trying to like fit into a scenario, or we're trying to, make friends, or, when we're by ourselves, like, what are you doing? Like, when you're with people and you want them to like you, are you generous and kind and nice? And then when you go home, are you one of those people that like is a shitty tipper and like trolls people on the internet? Like, what kind of person are you? Like, are you living, basically what this is saying is that you should be consistent, right? So if you are being kind and nice and act as if you're generous in front of people, then you should be doing that in the privacy of your own home. If you're someone who doesn't like to be that, then you need to find something else that you want to be. Don't pretend to be this like wonderful human being when you're on the internet trolling people and being, mean all the time. I know it's like really extreme examples, but just to kind of give you like the idea of like what they're saying. What I love about this topic is that I started out with an idea of like where this was all going, and now it's kind of changed. So I've had this idea for like probably the last year or so, where I thought I had everything figured out at like 17. Like 17 years old, my mom sent me to New York for the summer. I was really responsible. Like, I only am remembering like really positive and good things about myself during that time. And same like within my early 20s and stuff, it's like for some reason at the age of like 25 is when I feel like I start like losing myself, or like maybe 26, and it's like maybe I thought I did a little bit before that, but it's like there's a time period where I feel like things changed, but in reality it was kind of opposite. It's like I just became more responsible. I stopped being like, I don't want to say that like I stopped being a daydreamer, because I still definitely do that, but I just started becoming a little bit more realistic about things, and having expectations that like fit reality versus like these romantic stories. And so I don't know why I think that, but so when I first was thinking about this, I was like, man, I feel like I had everything figured out when I was younger. Like, I knew what I wanted to be. I was focused. I did all this stuff, trying to be a dancer, and then, realizing that wasn't my passion. So then I went over here, and it's just like, the reality of that is very wrong. I found some journals in the time that I've been going through and like throwing things out and organizing what's going with us, what's going to storage, all that. And I found these journals from about the time I was like 16, 17 into my mid 20s. And I was boy crazy. I was so obsessed with finding love. Like, I wanted a boyfriend. I wanted this really unrealistic version of a person. I thought I was going to meet the love of my life in my early 20s. Like, I thought I was just going to move to New York. And now, even still, like, thinking back on it, like, I used to walk down to Central Park, and there's this fountain, and I can't remember. It's like the Bethesda. I can't say the freaking name, but anyways, it's the main fountain in the middle of Times Square. It's near the Boathouse restaurant. And I used to go down there and I would read a book. I think at the time I've read like Pride and Prejudice like 5 times. Pretty sure that's what I would read down there. And I seriously thought that if I just sat down there and read, that Prince Charming would come by and like we would start a conversation, and like, I don't know, like I was just, which is great, right? I mean, here I am figuring out what the world is, to be that optimistic and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed about all of it. But how this all ties together is I was so consumed with finding love that I let a lot of other things slip. Like, as I'm like reading these things, it's like, oh, I really like this boy, but I need to get focused. I need to get focused. I need to get focused. And then like next one, oh, I met this other boy. Need to get focused though. Next one. It's like this obsession with finding love and all of that, it just consumed me. So I think the issue now is that I've never fully gotten to, up until this point in my life, to really chase and pursue the things that I really want, and like really think about the person that I want to be, because I've always kind of tried to be like, I don't want to say fit in a box, because like there are obviously certain things that are innately me, right? Like there are personality traits and things about me that are just me, and to list them off the top of my head right now, like I'm in this other thought, so maybe it'll come to me in a minute. But I don't know if you guys feel like this, especially if you're women, and maybe men too, but it's like when you're dating and stuff, you're trying to kind of like, you're kind of finding yourself within that realm. And so it's like, I think the older you are, when you like find your person, it's kind of different, because when you're so much younger, it's like there are so many unanswered questions and you're still like trying to figure out life. So if you like find someone, then you both are kind of like figuring things out together. But it's like a lot of like the pursuit for love is about like just trying different things on and like seeing what works and what doesn't. And so now that I'm married and I'm like extremely happily married, it's like I no longer have that chase anymore. And it's like I am very aware of like, being a good wife and like being there for my husband and all of that. But to me, that stuff is coming really easy because I love him so much. So not to get too mushy, but it's not a hard thing for me to like adapt to his life because it's love. And so, but there's still this other side of me that now that I'm not like consumed with like finding someone to love me back, it's like that part is kind of like, okay, we've done that now, so now what? Because even though this is such an amazing part and big part of my life, it's not all of who I am, and it's not all of who he is. So it's like, okay, now what I'm doing. So basically what I'm trying to say is, me thinking I had everything figured out back in the day, I didn't at all. And it's like I was so consumed with finding love that it was such a distraction to everything else that I had going on. So I'm kind of curious if like anyone else feels like that, like especially you that are married or have a serious relationship or something. Like, do you guys now kind of feel like, okay, now what? And it's almost like oh, wait, who am I? Because also, like, another part of that is, like, when you're single, there's a very specific mentality that you have. And, like, especially if you're a single person who wants to get married and wants to find someone to love, or like a life partner, or whatever, however you choose to live your life, like whatever that is for you. Like if you're just someone who's like single and is unattached and prefers it that way, you probably have a pretty good idea of who you are and like the lifestyle that you want. But for somebody who's single and wants to be with somebody, there's certain things that you do because it's like, okay, I'm going to go get brunch with my friends. I'm going to go get a drink by myself after work. Like you have this very independent lifestyle. I guess that's what I'm more so looking for. And it's like you get used to that. And so it's almost like this independent lifestyle becomes part of your personality because you don't have any other option. You can't find someone to love you right now. It's like, like going on dates and like going through the whole thing and like, yeah, I do this for a career, but it's like that alone doesn't like, define who you are. Like you might work at a bank, but that's not like, okay, so you have an entire personality outside of that. But it's like you have some interests and you try things on and stuff like that. But, there's definitely something that changes when you get married into where like you let a lot of that go because it's like it's no longer necessary. Like, unless you're in a scenario like I am, where my husband works really long hours, or, coming up on this next journey of ours, he'll be on a lot more deployments. So I will have to kind of go back to that independent person again, but it's still going to be a very different independent person than it was before because obviously I'm not going to be out. If I go out, it's going to be for different reasons. It's not going to be to like try to meet somebody. So I think that's kind of interesting because, we have these ideas of who we are, but just because I'm single and independent and I have to live this way, is that actually who I am? I guess that's more of the question that I'm kind of putting out there. So, like, being out here was really interesting because it was kind of like, boom, right after we got married, settling into married life, having a complete change of scenery, and no longer working in the industry I was working in that I had worked so hard for. So a lot of things changed for me and a lot of things slowed down. Like I've always been in a position where I've had to hustle and I'm just a hustler. That was kind of part of my identity a little bit. And then once I get married, all of a sudden this like giant sense of security came upon me. Like my husband having a great job and career, all of a sudden took a lot of that hustling pressure off of me. And not that I don't want to work hard, it's given me the opportunity to not have to do that. Because if you don't have to work yourself to, death, like why would you do that, And like I've talked in other episodes too, like a lot of this too of me not working has been very beneficial to him as well because the house is clean, his stuff gets taken care of, there's food on the table at night. It's not perfect 100% of the time, but I'd say probably like 80% of the time, all this stuff is just kind of taken care of for him. And then also the emotional support and just the fact that he can come home and hang out with me, all of that is really important to him too. If I was working crazy hours and working an equally demanding job or something, that would have been really hard during this time. And so I guess like as we're packing up, I've just been reflecting a lot and kind of trying to figure out like who it is that I am, because I just have identified so much with things that I no longer have in my life. And I'm realizing that, being a hustler, part of that is being a hard worker. Yes, I'm a hard worker, but I don't necessarily want to be someone who is missing out on the little things in life because I'm so consumed with my job. Um, Meeting my husband, he's really into nature and hiking and all that. And it wasn't that I was against it. It's just like I went from pretty much like high school, I was in dance stuff all the time. So I was always in like some hotel ballroom dancing at a dance convention. Um, and then moving to New York City, like there's like Central Park, which I loved Central Park. I loved going there and having picnics and stuff. Um, but like as far as like getting out and like being like really into nature and stuff, I just didn't have a lot of opportunities, and it wasn't something that I was like necessarily seeking on my own. So meeting him, I found this huge love for nature, and I also think too it's just a little bit about getting older as well. Like we start to appreciate things a little differently. So like just like we're about to go on another trip, and we're camping a lot while we're doing it, and we're seeing a lot of really cool natural things again. And I'm just so excited for it because it's like I think too getting out in nature helps you have like a larger perspective. But I'm gonna do another show on that, so I won't get too into that. But um, meeting him, he introduced me, like kind of reintroduced me to this stuff, and I really enjoyed it. And so this is now like kind of one of those things, like what brings me joy? Well, I love traveling with my husband. I love seeing beautiful things. I love experiences. I'm much more of an experience person than I am like a things person. Like, some people, it's really important for them to have like a big house and a nice car and like nice furniture, which is totally fine. If that's part of like your person and you can afford to do that, I think that's awesome for you. I personally, we're not in a place in our life where like even investing in something like that is really an option. So it's like, where are we getting our joy from? Well, let's get it from seeing some really cool shit. So like marrying him, like I realized that's kind of a part of me. But there's like another aspect that I'm kind of struggling with because like, like the hard work aspect of it all, like if I'm not pushing, like if I'm not moving 100 miles a minute, then I feel like there's this guilt and I'm useless and I don't know what to do with it. But then the logical side of my head is like, you don't have to do that anymore. So just relax and take your time. But then I'm like, my clock's ticking, I'm already 30 years old. Like, where am I going? Where's my career going? So it's been an interesting like last year and like especially last few months because I don't want like it kind of felt like we've been in a time warp here on recruiting duty. It's kind of like everything just paused, and there's just been like a level of stress and kind of like like I don't know how to explain it because it's not super obvious. It's not something that was like every single day in your face. But, it was kind of a sadness almost because like both of us just, as much as I didn't want to be out here, like, and not that we don't enjoy Alabama because it is a beautiful state and the people here are extremely nice and, the lake is beautiful. Like we've had some really good times, but like the things that we used to do when we first, got back together and then like got married and like our time in California, we were able to do a lot of adventurous things and like, he would take me and show me new things and we would try different things. And it was like every weekend, like, we would be off doing something interesting, and it's almost kind of like we were depressed. And I don't like to use that word lightly because it wasn't like we were clinically depressed, but it was just like the stress of everything and like what it all meant just kind of like made us vegetables, like made us little zombies or something. Like we spent a lot of time just staying at home, sitting on the couch, We spent a lot of time drinking, probably too much time drinking. And, it just wasn't, and it wasn't drinking in like a fun social setting. It was like drinking in our house, which I think also too, like this pandemic that we've all been a part of has like contributed to some of that. But, they were just kind of like a cloud over us. Maybe that's the best way to describe it. And we just haven't been like 100% ourselves. And so now that we're finally getting towards like the light at the end of the tunnel and things have gotten a lot easier for my husband at work, like we're getting our joy back again. And like we're going and like kind of exploring, and I feel kind of bad because there's some fun things that we found like over the last few weekends, and it's just like, well shit, like why didn't we ever pursue this before, But yeah, so it's kind of like we've just been in like this little vacuum, and it just has been really weird. So now that we're kind of coming out of it, it's like when we go to Japan, that is my biggest thing. It's like I do not want that vacuum to come back. I don't think it will, because like that stress of recruiting duty is not going to be over us. We'll have other things going on, but like I don't think it's going to be like that again. And so I'm really excited for the new opportunities, but it's like I just kind of like, because it got so weird here, and again, our marriage was never in trouble. Like we have been very happy with each other. We've been very appreciative and kind to one another. It's just been like a weird thing where we don't want to do anything. It's like exhausting. Like we're just totally exhausted all the time. And so going to Japan, I don't want that, and I want to be proactive. And so that's why, again, I've just really been soul searching, because I'm just like, okay, where is this going? Like, what are we going to accomplish in the next 3 years, basically? So another thing that I want to touch on with like what this said is to kind of like, who do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to be? What are your personal ideals? Whom do you admire? And what are their special traits that you would make your own? So I think that's kind of interesting because like, I think there's certain things about us that are just like innately us, and we can't change that, and we kind of just have to accept it. But like, as far as like other qualities, I think we can definitely work on ourselves. And like what I'm talking about right now, like I think this is like most things I talk about, it is an ongoing thing. I think that there'll be different seasons in our lives and various, scenarios, situations, challenges, accomplishments, all sorts of different things that are going to affect how we are and what kind of people we are. So like for an example, today I'm a housewife, but maybe in 10 years I won't be. Maybe you're stay-at-home mom, but eventually your kids are going to grow up and leave the house. What do a lot of people have issues with like empty nesting. They're like empty nesters now, because you dedicate so much of your time and your personality gets wrapped up in like being a parent. So then it's like, okay, we're not like that parent anymore, your role as a parent changes. And so, maybe you're someone who's like really dedicated to your job and then you retire. It's like, how do you fill your time now, So I think that like there's constant, and there's like, people have babies, people die, people, we move to a new place, you make new friends, you lose friends, there's just so many different scenarios that are going to affect the kind of people that we are and going to change our perspective on things. So like for me right now, I'm just thinking of like this next chapter that I'm going into. When we came out here, I guess I did say to myself, I wanted to be a great supporting wife. And I think I accomplished that. I think that I did a really good job doing that. And I think my husband was just like, I don't want her to divorce me. Because recruiting duty, unfortunately, ruins a lot of couples, and that's really sad. But yeah, we both, that was our main goal coming out of here, like that we still love each other and we're gonna still be married. And so, awesome accomplishment. But now this next chapter, like I'm just thinking about the kind of person that I want to be, and maybe some things that I like to do a little differently. And so still want to be a really great wife, still want to be able to like take care of my husband. And I did find some cool traits that I really have been enjoying, like cooking, and that's been really fun. And obviously, like doing my own podcast thing, like those are cool things. I can put skills that I kind of already had to use again. But outside of that, like what other sorts of things do I want to do? And so it's like I've been kind of trying to think of certain people that I really admire, and like what do I admire about those people? And I haven't gotten a great hold on any certain ideal yet. So it's been kind of hard for me because I'm like, well, what kind of personality traits do I really want to like emanate, I guess, in my life? And one for sure that I know of is that I have a really hard issue with motivation and like personal motivation. And so much of what I'm doing right now, you need a lot of that. And so I'm kind of like looking at things, which I guess, okay, I'll take that back because I just hadn't thought of it, but now I thought of it. There's a few writers, and I think his name, I can't remember. I think it's this guy, Stephen Pressfield. I think that's who it is that I remember saying this. I could be wrong. This is the War of Art book, and I definitely want to get into this book soon. Might be this other guy, Robert McKee. I'm sure they probably both have similar styles in what I'm about to say, but as writers, like they just get up and they do their writing, and one of them has like a shed in their backyard that's like an office or something, or like some structure in the backyard that's an office. So he has a time he wakes up every day, goes out there, and he dedicates 4 hours. In his mind, anything more than 4 hours is too much pressure and you're not going to get it done. So even if he goes out there and if he writes something and he hates it, it doesn't matter. He went out there and he wrote that day. If he feels compelled to write longer than 4 hours, I'm sure he probably does, but I think most of the time he doesn't. And so what that is to me is structure, and it's just like personal responsibility and motivation to what you're doing. And that's something I really admire because I lack that tremendously. I just like, even with the podcast, it's like if I had a room that I could just set all of this stuff up in, and I had like a desk in the corner, and that's, I can just shut the door on it. I think I would have a little bit of an easier time creating structure in my life. But I don't really have that. And so every time I do this, it's like, I gotta drag everything out again. I can't just like flip on a few switches, Same with my writing. It's like, I do have a desk, but the desk is like a secretary desk. And like, I write on my laptop, which I move around the house and stuff. So it's like, I just don't have like a really great structure. And I think I actually deal with structure really well when you have that kind of like ritual thing to do. And so that's something that moving to Japan, I'm really hoping in some capacity I can like create a space for myself, and kind of hold myself to a schedule even. I find that like I get distracted really easily, and I love it when people call me and distract me. So I also think in Japan, with the time difference, it's going to be really hard to be interrupted at all. But at the end of the day, also, like, I've talked about boundaries with you guys before. I'm really bad at setting them. I like to be flexible because I think that's nice. But at this point in my life and the things that I want to accomplish, I'm just like, no, you don't have that luxury anymore. And it's really not necessary, because people shouldn't expect you to just be free 100% of the time. Like, it's okay for you to have things going on. And so these are just like a few things that it's like, if I want to be a professional writer, if I want to make these things happen, if I want my podcast to do well, then I've got to commit some serious time and effort to it. And so those are some examples of things that I'm working on, and that I find really important and kind of in the person that I want to become. And I think, I want to be a successful person, so I think implementing those sorts of things into my life are going to help me become successful. Or at least they'll help me discover something about myself. Maybe if I can't stick on a schedule or something, then maybe I'm in the wrong field. Like maybe there's something else that I need to be doing. But it's like, what sort of things, if you're, like, to take it away from me, like if you're, a stay-at-home mom and you wish your house was clean all the time and it's always a mess, like, is that actually important to you? Like, I think it also comes down to, like, saying all that I just said, I've thought a lot about this, and so, like, if I want to do this, this is important to me. This is something that I really want to try. If I really thought about it and I was like, you know what, writing a movie would not be interesting to me anymore, making my podcast is boring, I don't know, I don't like it, like, then I wouldn't need to, like, search for these traits that might help me be a better person in that realm, so, or like be a better version of myself in that realm. The fact that I've decided that this is stuff that I am, like, still working towards, being a good wife is still really important to me. Now, where are the qualities, what are the, like, components that are gonna, like, make me that best version of myself? So, if you're somebody, maybe you're a working parent and it's just like your family is super important to you, but you find it so difficult to commit time to them. It's like, what sort of things can you do to be put into place? I guess, like, another thing that I'm personally working on is I have really bad body positivity. And I've been reading this book, or I read it, called the Intuitive Eating book. And it's really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And so one of them being that a lot of my self-worth is in my body image, of my personal opinion of my body. And so I'm trying to break my idea of what I think that I need to look like and kind of just accept myself for what I am, even though that is extremely hard for me. But it's like, I don't want to be this person that is obsessed with looking like a Victoria's Secret model, because I just don't think that I'm ever going to look like a Victoria's Secret model. Not naturally anyways. And, I think I've kind of talked about this before, like, what am I willing to do for that? And it's just like, even when last summer I was at probably the smallest I've been in my adult life, and I still thought I looked fat. And that's the problem. Like, I looked really great and I was fitting in clothes that I never thought I would fit in before. And then to just gain all this weight back, like, it was really horrible. Like, I felt so fucking shitty and I was so down on myself. And it's like, that's not okay, because the size I'm at is not bad size. It's very normal. And my husband thinks I'm attractive, like, there's nothing wrong with how I look. And so that's, like, something that I'm also personally trying to work on. It's like, I want to be somebody who's proud of myself, and I don't want to be somebody who's constantly beating myself up because it's like, oh, I've got a little extra fat on my stomach. It's like, logically I understand that that's stupid, and I see other people that are even maybe bigger than me and I think they look beautiful and wonderful, and I don't judge them. It's like, why am I so hard on myself? And so that's another thing. Like, I personally want to be someone who is proud in who they are, physically, and proud of, like, what my body can do, and not just, hate on myself all the time. Another thing is, like, just being more positive too. Like, I think in current society, and with social media and everything, I can get negative really quickly, and it just feels like everything is crumbling. It feels like so many people are horrible people. And it's like, the reality of it is, like, there's so many great people. And, yesterday I was in a really shitty mood and I just didn't feel great. And yet, when I went to the store, I just, tried to kind of put a smile on. And I had some really cool interactions with people. And they were super small. But, it's just nice when you take a moment to kind of just, like, appreciate other humans and just, like, appreciate these, like, small little moments. And so that's another thing that I'm trying to work on. So I'm just, like, throwing out ideas here because it's like, I'm sure there's million other things that I could say, but it's like, what's going on in your life at this moment? What are the things that, you're thinking about, that your dreams are, that your struggles are right now? What's going on? And to kind of, like, analyze it and just, kind of sit with it for a while. I mean, I've been doing this for several months now because it will take that long. It's not something that you can just sit there and I'm still figuring it out. I'm really excited for our vacation because I think that just being away from everything and our whole schedule and everything just being completely different, I think is going to be a great opportunity to just kind of, like, just observe and let things be and just take it as it is, sort of, and just embrace all the little moments and the big moments of whatever. And so I think that, like, taking a step back sometimes and just kind of taking a day off, whatever, but just taking your time and really thinking about what it is, where you're going, what you have on your plate, and, like, what kind of person do you want to be? Like, if you're struggling with a scenario and you're tired of it, then it's time to look outside of your scenario and decide, and maybe look at examples of other people that you admire and say to yourself, like, what kind of things are they doing? What kind of things do they talk about? What is it about them? What is it about these other scenarios that might actually bring me more joy, make me happier, make me better at XYZ, give me a better perspective of life, whatever it is. But I think doing that's really important. And to remember that all this is going to change because, again, scenarios happen and, we can't, as much as we try to control our emotions and the things, like, sometimes it's called getting stuck in a rut for a reason, right? It's like this happens and this happens and this happens. And then all of a sudden, you see yourself kind of going this way, or maybe you see yourself going that way. It doesn't necessarily have to be negative, but it's like, usually when we're trying to, like, fix something for us, it's because the current scenario is just not right, and we've acknowledged that. So it's like, okay, where's that next step for you? And to kind of figure that out and then, commit yourself to it. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up here. I kind of already started the wrap-up process, but just to reiterate, like, it's important for us to figure out who we want to be and what we want to be in this specific moment in our life. Like I said, I think this is something that we continue to, like, reevaluate because of whatever sort of scenarios we have going on. But, to just kind of, like, coast and be like, well, things are getting done, or like, okay, I don't like how this works, but I guess this is how it is. Like, sure, there are some things that are out of our control and we just got to go with the flow on it. But, maybe you can change your mindset about it. Like, let's say your kids are in school and you're not in love with their teacher this year, whatever. But, you don't have the option to homeschool them. You don't have the option to switch their classes. You just got to deal with the hand that you're dealt. My mom, I'll use this as an example. When my brother was in elementary school, he was just a very talkative child. He just loved to distract and didn't want to do the homework. And instead of just keeping to himself about it, he would get the whole class riled up. And I don't remember. I think he was in, like, it was between, like, first and third grade or something like that. I can't remember. It was kind of an all all year, all elementary thing. But anyways, one year he had this teacher, and she was just a very cruel woman. She just was not nice, and she wanted kids to fit in a box. And so if you were a child that, did not fit in that box, if you were a child that did not just sit there and do what you were told, basically, she didn't know how to deal with you. And he would get sent to the principal's office all the time, which he loved, because then he didn't have to do the work, and he loved talking to the office ladies. So he got what he wanted. And so obviously this pissed my mom off, because she's just like, he needs to be in class learning. You're his teacher. You need to figure out how to handle him. And long story short, it was a constant struggle throughout the whole year. But, what were my mom's options? She was pretty much a single mom at that point. Like, didn't have an option to take him out. Couldn't switch his class. I think she did try to switch his school, and they wouldn't let him switch that year or something. Or maybe she switched him later on. But anyways, she's relatively limited on her options. So she tried her best. She tried to change her outlook on like how she was talking to the school, how she was dealing with it. It was still a struggle all that year, but like it could have been a lot worse. Like, had my mom gone into it with like a really horrible attitude and just like, screaming and whatever, or had my mom just been like whatever and not tried to problem solve or anything like that, like it would have been a much worse scenario. But instead, my mom was like holding my brother accountable, holding the school accountable, holding a teacher accountable. How can we work with this? How can we get this kid to do what we need him to do? Because when he's at home, he listens to me, but I talk to him a certain way like this. So can you try to implement that? So it's just like, there are certain things that, the point being, are going to be out of our control. But, maybe changing your perspective or something. Or like, if there's something about yourself that you're just not super happy with, like, like my scheduling thing, like I wish I was better at structure and could create that for myself, and something that I'm definitely going to be working on in the next few years. Acknowledge that and see how you can better incorporate that into your life. I think that, all these things are important. And then, again, remember, we all are going to have seasons. We're going to have to reevaluate this stuff. But, it's important to commit ourselves to what we want to commit to. Like my scheduling thing, I can tell people that, yeah, I sit at home and I write from 7 a.m. to noon every day. And then when it actually comes down to it, maybe I only do that 1 or 2 days a week. Like, no, if I decide that that's what I'm going to do, if I decide these are my office hours, then I need to commit myself to them. Same thing, if I decide they're my office hours and someone's like, oh, hey, do you want to go get coffee in the morning? Or, oh, hey, there's an appointment in the morning. Like, every once in a while, sure, things come up and you're going to have to be a little flexible. But on the majority of basis, it's like, on the other hand of that, it's like, no, I commit myself to my office hours every day. Like, you're going to have to work around my schedule otherwise. Like, yeah, I know I'm home. I'm not necessarily getting paid for this, but this is what I've committed for myself. So not only is it important to figure out who we want to be, what kind of traits, what kind of perspectives, what kind of, personality goes along with that, without completely changing yourself, obviously. Like, not be a psychopath. Be like single white female, like I'm gonna transform into this person, but just like being observant and figuring out how that'll fit into your life, and then also committing to it, being that person even when people aren't looking, being that person when people are looking, whatever it is. But yeah, so anyways, have a lot of stuff to work on, but also have a lot of time to think. And so so happy you guys are joining me again this week. Remember, I'm only doing these every other week until we get fully settled in Japan. But I am just so excited to share all my new adventures with you guys and to continue to talk about philosophy. I think the future is very bright for the Bored Housewife and her followers. So please like, subscribe, follow my Instagram. Also, I should link my personal Instagram too. I'm kind of like toying back and forth on our vacation if I'm going to post. Like, I plan on posting most of the vacation on like my personal Instagram. But I'm kind of, because I try to keep my life a little separate, right? But if you're curious to see what we're doing and what kind of cool stuff we get to see, I'll also post my personal page on my Linktree, little link that you can click on. But yeah, thanks so much for watching another episode, and I hope you guys have a great week. Cheers, guys. Bye.